Hey, you. Yes, you. The leader, the almost leader, the accidental leader, the how did I end up responsible for all of this leader. Welcome back to the With Jen podcast. I'm Jen, and today we're talking about leadership. Not the LinkedIn version, not the 5 a.m. club, hustle harder, dominate the market version, the real one. The one that keeps you up at night. The one that makes you question yourself. The one that sometimes makes you sick if you're not careful. Because here's the thing, leadership looks glamorous when you're young. You think, oh, I'll be in charge. I'll inspire people. I'll be confident. I'll finally prove myself. And then one day you're sitting at your desk thinking, hold the phone. This is hard. Leadership isn't a title, it's a responsibility. And that's exactly what today's conversation with Felix is about. Felix is a leadership consultant, multipreneur, dad, conscious leadership advocate, and someone who, at one point in his career, literally got physically sick from leading in a way that didn't align with his values. And instead of pushing through like a strong leader would, he quit. No plan B, no safety net, just self leadership. And that's where our conversation begins. We talk about the moment leadership stops being glamorous, why ego driven leadership is regressing globally, the difference between destroying energy and inclusive leadership, why presence is the rarest and most underrated leadership skill, how to take difficult decisions without becoming rude, why female leadership energy is not a weakness but a balance, and why the world doesn't change at Davos, but it changes in your microcosm. And we go there. We talk politics, we talk ego, we talk emotional intelligence. We talk about being 24 and thinking you're God because you manage 50 people. Been there, learned the lesson. But the core thread of this whole episode, leadership starts with you, without it being about you. And if that sentence doesn't hit a nerve somewhere, it probably should. So whether you lead a company, a team, a household, a creative project, or just yourself right now, this conversation is for you. Let's dive right in. Well, Felix, welcome so much. I'm so happy that you're here and that our vibe check went really well. And I'm very excited to have you here. Yes. So yeah, once again, welcome. And would you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. Me too. I was so much looking forward. The vibe check was great. So we're getting the vibe over to you out there who are listening and or watching. I'm Felix. Nice to meet you all. I'm 42 years old. I am a multipreneur focused on HR topics. So I'm a trainer and coach in leadership development, and I run 2 recruitment agencies. I am a super proud dad of an 8-year-old little fella. Yeah, I live in Germany, in Cologne, so not so far from where you are, but
Yay!
but being European and a proud citizen of the world, I love to travel. I've been living abroad, and I really like that. I love to meet other people and talk about leadership and talk about culture and talk about how we are shaping this world. And yeah, what drives me and why I do the things I do is the goal and the aim to make the world of work a better place, because I think it needs it. We have been on a good way, but feels a bit like we're going backwards a little, to formulate it nicely. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here to talk to you, to share thoughts, ideas, to spar what we can do to make it nice.
I love that. Love that. And how did you get into HR and recruitment and leadership? What's the backstory beyond that?
I have been studying business administration because I was interested in that. And then when I graduated, actually, I didn't know what I want to be when I'm a grown up, right? Like I was there and said, fuck, I don't know. I just don't know. And then I was already, my dad always told me, hey, you need to learn Chinese. You need to learn Chinese. That's the future, boy. Like you need to learn Chinese. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know, like, no. And so then my thesis was about the market entry strategies of game consoles. And I took the Nintendo Wii as an example. And so I thought, gaming could be good, right? So I started studying Japanese instead. I traveled to Japan. I spent a while there. And then when I moved back, I had to start working, right? Like the money was gone. I had to start working. And then I posted, hey, I'm back in Germany. I'm looking for a job. Of course, I didn't post, I don't know what to do. I just posted, right? And then I was, okay, I don't know what to do. So maybe I can erase a couple of things to make the choice easier. So what I don't want to do is anything related to finance, right? And so then a friend contacted me and said, hey, I work for that great company. Why don't you come to interview here? I said, sure. It's my first interview. It's great. We'll be training. I don't know what you're doing. Well, let me go there. And then I ended up in a recruitment firm focused on finance roles. So I did sales in finance, which I was like, fuck, that's the two things I don't want to do. But it was really great. I learned a lot. And so that was, a step in. I have already been working as a student in recruitment. So that was a good step. And that's like widened my horizon a lot because I have been talking to people every day. I have been like recruitment is a great way to learn people, to learn company cultures, because you have to match them. It's very sales oriented, very people oriented. So that's how I really got into that. Of course, that was my first touch with leadership as well, because I had a leader. I was looking for, I had a boss. I was looking for bosses for different companies, or for employees for bosses. And my first team lead, he really got me into this mood and mode of learning, because he was a great sales guy, great guy. And our team was super interesting. We read a lot. We watched DVDs together in that time. We were discussing about podcasts. So it was a learning culture. That was great. I mean, sorry if you hear that, my friend, but he was a lousy leader. So he was great in inspiring me to learn, but he was not a good team lead for me. So I learned how not to lead and how to learn. And but I'm super thankful, right? Like he taught me so much by these two things. And so that's how I got into that. And then I got my first leadership role in that company. Then I switched, got to a different company, got a bigger leadership role myself. Yeah, and then I was there in that field of being a leader, a manager myself, of training and coaching people. And then I got into the coaching and training business, which I do since 10 years now, helping leaders to become better leaders. It's not the right word, right? Like become more conscious leaders, let's say, become more conscious leaders. And then I founded my own company where, of course, I'm a leader there too. So today I run different companies where I lead myself and I train and coach people in being leaders. So yeah, leadership is an omnipresent topic in my life. I'm a dad, that's leadership too, right? So yeah, it's omnipresent in my life, reflecting and thinking, yeah, what is it that makes good leadership?
Yeah, I love that. That's great. And it's also just a great way to learn when you're seeing someone doing it that's not your style, that's not within the frame of mind that you think it should be. Although when we're young and stupid, because you and I, we both have been in leadership roles. Little disclaimer for you who's listening right now, I've been a manager for smaller teams up to 7 people, but also huge teams, 150. And you just learn so much by seeing and doing and just actually being there and talking about which, because at first when you're young, you kind of feel like, oh, this is glamorous and this is a great role and I'm going to be a great leader and I'm going to be amazing and all that blah, blah. But I'm wondering when leadership stopped being glamorous for us both as individuals. I think we both had a little awakening where we were like, hold the fucking phone. This is actually a very tough role, and this is not as glamorous as I thought it would be. And for you, was that when you launched your company, or when you had your first team seriously underneath you, or when was that moment, and what did it do to you?
I think the first moment was when I left my really first company and I went to the second, where I have been employed to be a leader. They had a culture. I understood the reason why. Like it was a British recruitment company, and it was much more international than what I did before. So I could learn a lot, but it was like the back in the days, this classical pushy British style of sales, which I understand why they do it. It's absolutely, but the leadership style that was asked from me was different than what I wanted to do. So I became sick, right? Like I could really feel there was a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And I felt I didn't feel good. I feel I became mentally and physically sick. And then I had this moment where my partner back in the days, she said, "Hey, it becomes complicated. Chill out, chill out.
Yeah.
We need to go on a holiday, right? Like you need to relax." So we went to Bali. Actually, that's maybe now 12 years ago. So I got in touch with meditation, yoga, all these things for the first time. I fell in love with it. And then I took a decision while I was there and I was feeling good. I took a decision and said, okay, when I come back, I will lead the way I want. Because either it will go well, and as long as it goes well, nobody will say anything. But as long as the numbers are good, it's good. Or it won't work, then they will fire me, which is okay because I don't want to work there anyways, right? Like it's okay.
Yeah.
So I came back. I felt really good. I said, okay, that's a good decision for me. It feels good for me, right? So I came back. 2 days after being back in the office, I became sick again. Like I became sick, and I had a great director. He was located in London, but he was responsible for like the European continent, right? So, but he was in our office that day, and he sensed it. So he came to me and said, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "Wow, like how do you know?" No, I mean, it's great. He was a great leader. And then we went to an office, closed the door, and I said, "I can't work here anymore. Like I'm not the right guy in the right time to really do that. I understand what you're asking for me. I understand the reason why. I appreciate it. I see that is what is needed here, but I cannot do it." And that was the moment that I quit that day, right? Like I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have anything. I just quit my job, and they have been super appreciative. They said, "We understand. Maybe you want to stay. Do you want to have a different role?" And then, but because they could understand, I could understand, so we could really go and depart in peace, understanding for each other. But that was the moment where I really thought, wow, like leadership is not as nice as people think. It's such a hard thing to do. I mean, it's easy if things go well. It's always, if you can go there and say, yeah, it's nice. But if things go south, then good leaders can easily differentiate between good leaders and not so good leaders when it gets a little bumpy, the road that we are on.
But also, you've just proven that you also have good self-leadership, because good leadership also starts by knowing who you are and what you want and what you need from a certain company, a certain role, or your role as a CEO. You need good leadership to be able to lead other people well, right?
100%. I always say the same. Like, how do you want to lead someone? Where do you want to lead someone if you don't know where you want to go, right? Like if you don't know yourself, if you cannot lead yourself, why and how do you think others want to follow you if you don't know where to go? So yeah, I 100% agree that leadership will always start with yourself. And
Yeah.
I think, like in the way businesses are run or done here most of the time, people do not reflect and think so much about themselves, right? Like they think about numbers and facts and figures. And so especially young leaders tend to lose themselves in that role, right? And thinking I need to make everything right, and they forget themselves, and so get super and I did the same thing, right? Like, so getting super stressed out, not taking any breaks, not reflecting on ourselves, because it's either so much focused on the other people or so ego driven, like, yeah, big cars, big nice, that
Yeah.
you lose yourself. And that's the most important, or one of the most important qualities about good leadership is, yeah, being good to yourself. Because if you're not good to yourself, how do you want to be good to other people?
Exactly. You have to create a course for yourself that you want to go towards. But you also have to take care of your mental and physical well-being in order to function well in that case. And I know that I do this through mental health days, for example. So every 4 weeks on Wednesday, I have a scheduled day
Mm,
off and I'm allowed to do nothing. I'm allowed to be lazy or go shopping or sleep or whatever, because if myself mentally and physically I am well rested, I will lead the company and the podcast and my Dutch company a lot better than when I'm overworked and tired. Or, on Sundays, for example, I don't work. There is no working on Sunday. I sleep in and maybe I go sing. Oh, for the people who don't know, I sing. So I love doing that.
nice,
So I'll go into rehearsal and, I'll feed my soul. And
nice.
I know it's super, like, I didn't want to say like scripted or anything, but I do have a couple of questions here for you. But now I'm very curious about, as a leader, how do you feed your soul? Do you take vacations regularly, or do you have a certain hobby that refills your joy in your body and mind, or what do you do?
Absolutely. I think especially it was a great learning for me as an entrepreneur. I think it's even more important to feed our souls and to be good to us. And that was a great learning for me, to understand that the resource in my business that I need to take the most care of is myself, right?
Yes.
And I have not been very good at that lately, to be honest, but I'm getting back into my routines, into my practices. I was super happy that by the end of last year, I could really go on holidays with my partner. We've been to Thailand for 2 weeks. No notebook, no laptop, no iPad. It was
Amen.
great. It was so great. And that was a good start to get back into my routines. So I love my morning routines. And what disclaimer first, I don't like this strict 5 a.m. morning club thing
I
where
know, me
where
either.
where it becomes you need to do that, and if you don't get up at 5 a.m. you're a bad person. And no, find something that suits yourself. To me, it's
Yeah.
definitely not 5 a.m. in the morning. No, I can't do that. It depends a bit. Like my son, I spend 1 week per month with my son. The other 3, he's with his mom. So of course, it's a bit different when I'm in my dad role or if I'm by myself. It's a bit different, the morning routine. But generally,
Hmm.
I like to get up. I love chanting mantras. Really, I like that. So I chant a bit in the morning. I do a bit of stretching. I do a meditation. That's really good. And for me, I think I'm not as a good singer as you. I would say I cannot sing, but I love to do it, especially collective singing is feeding my soul. So I either
Yes.
go to the football stadium to chant and scream, in that way, or I
Yay.
go to kirtans and I love to chant these old style mantras with people. So if you sit me in a room
Mm.
with a guitar and a couple of people and we sing songs, I'll start crying and I love it. Yeah, and in the football stadium is that different. That's more, like the soft feeding. In the football stadium is more like the raw feeling of energy, which I like to do. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I have these two that I really like. And of course, like taking times off to spend it with my son or with my partner. That's feeding my soul. And I know that it's always tempting. My phone will be there, my notebook will be there, and I'm training myself. Okay, let's be present with them, not with work. Let's be present with them, not with work. So
yes, that's an ongoing
absolutely
thing. Oh God, I feel that one so deep. Yeah, but on the other hand, it's good that that you're at least telling yourself that, and that you're training yourself on it, because a lot of people are not. So for you who's listening to the podcast, and if anyone needs to hear this right now, forward it to them like immediately, because please train yourself on being present with yourself, with your partner, with your days off, with your hobbies. And indeed,
absolutely.
the 5 a.m. club doesn't suit everyone. Like, I get up at 6 every morning and I start off with my yoga, and that's my morning routine. And I've tried the 5 a.m. thing, but it's also not for me. But there is a midway where you'll feel comfortable without feeling depleted at the end of the day. And especially as a leader in a leadership role, whether you're a solo entrepreneur and you need to take a big chunk of self-leadership, or if you have a team, you need to do that for yourself to not go nuts in the end.
Absolutely. And I think that the number one quality as being an entrepreneur and a leader is presence. Gifting
Yes.
the other person your real presence, being there with them. And that became so rare in nowadays, right? Because like the attention span is becoming shorter and shorter because there's so much information. And I see leaders, be conducting conversations with their people, but being then on the phone at the same time, right? Like not being present. And yeah, that cannot work. So start being present with yourself and then with others, and that will make a huge difference.
Yes, definitely. And that's also a part that's actually fundamentally broken in our current leadership. You can see it in politics as well. I mean, a lot of people on my socials know I'm very anti-Trump, for example. Like, I don't like the guy one bit. He is a joke to the world. And the
Absolutely.
way that he's tweeting on his own social or on Twitter or whatever, the guy is so broken and so not present with his people and with his family and with good causes that he should be supporting. Yeah, he lacks this form of self and otherly presence, definitely. Like, it's shameful, and that makes a bad leader. And talking about that, if you look at leadership today, what do you think is broken? It could be economically, politically, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's there is a couple of pretty good examples about bad leadership these days, especially in politics, as you said, right? I mean, we are going backwards to these stereotypical, archetypical old guys. I mean, we can even old white guys thinking they and their egos and their penises can rule the world, right? And I'm like, how can we get back there? And to me, it's always interesting to see, like, I mean, if we take Trump as an example, number one thing, I can't even understand why he's doing the things he's doing. I mean, it's crazy, right? I don't agree a bit as you do, but from his perspective, I can understand why. But at the same time, what I cannot understand is, like, how can people allow him to do that shit? That's super scary. But that's a bit about leadership too, right? Like, people that, like, he's an example of that strong male energy that people just want to follow, and it seems like they are switching their brains off and just following his ego. And I think that is something that is absolutely broken in leadership too, because to me, if we look at leadership should not be about you, right? It's not about you. Leadership, a job of a leader is not becoming
about them. Yeah.
the biggest guy, especially guy, because it's a guy thing, right? Like not becoming the biggest guy in the room. It's about serving the other people in the room to become
Yes.
better, to make a better job. You know, it's like it's a serving role of helping people. And most of the time what is broken in politics, and of course like in economics as well, in most companies, it's that leaders make it about themselves and their view of the world. I mean, we see that with with successful CEOs as well. If it's not your own company, and if the way you lead is short-termly incentivized, right? Because we are looking at the stock prices on a quarterly or even daily basis. Of course, like your decisions won't be the most sustainable ones. If your bonus depends on the numbers in that quarter, I might even take decisions that are bad for the company or bad for the environment or the world. But why should I care? You know, it's just about me. And that's something that is really broken, that like leaders these days make it more about themselves than about others.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's nothing wrong with a strong male presence. I mean, Obama, for example, he also had a strong male presence, but he had like this, he was more like a calm sea, a calm, like nice lake. And he indeed made sure that everyone who was on his lake, they were safe, they were not drowning. And Trump is more like a raging storm on open waters, and you'll just drown whenever you get in there. That's basically the difference between the two of them.
Absolutely.
Because I love men in leadership roles. It really, for me, it makes me feel safe. It makes me feel nice. I mean, I also love women in leadership roles. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in one. But there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance in male, female, and we need to, take in charge that we're all good people and indeed take decisions that are better for us in the long run. So look at our investments, time-wise, money-wise, all the wises basically, that are sustainable in the longer run. But some people are just a raging storm, and some people are like a nice calm lake and you won't drown. So I think that's very much the distinction that you could make between leaders. And I don't know about you, but whenever I see other leaders walking around, there's not really a middle ground. They are either a raging storm where you'll drown, or they are a nice calm lake where they will keep you safe and it's enjoyable. That's so weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with what you said, right? Like we need more balanced leadership, because right now we have more of that drowning people, like, right? Like it's not so much about gender. I think it's more about energy. So there's too much male destroying energy in leadership, and we need much more of that female type of leadership, right? It doesn't need to be a man or a woman, but that female type of leadership, which is more inclusive, more caring about others than about themselves. And yeah, of course we see like if we look at gender as well, it's not balanced at all. We are still living in a world where 90% of all leaders are men. So we definitely need more non-men.
Softer energy people.
Absolutely, people with a softer energy in leadership, to balance that out, and to be more caring about others.
Yeah, and this ties basically directly up to ego as well, because the softer people, whether you're men or female, the ego is a little bit softer. And for some people, ego just gets big and inflated when they get into leadership roles. But I'm actually a bit curious about, like, at what point does leadership turn into ego, and how do you guard yourself against that? Because I remember when I was younger, especially when I was younger and I was 24 and a manager and running a 50-person team, my ego blew the fuck up. I felt like strong and nice and I wanted to do everything. Blah, 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 blah. I was walking around the building like I was God or something. And after a year, I thought to myself, well, maybe this is not the best way to go. But I was young and stupid, right? I mean, now I'm 32. I've learned my lesson. We're not doing that anymore. And now definitely I journal nearly every day, and that's how I guard my ego and how I make sure that I don't inflate myself too much. But how do you do that? How do you keep yourself in check?
Yeah, I think especially when I started to become a leader, I had the same thing, right? Like in my first company, when I became a leader, I was the fastest, the one in, was it 2025? I think 20 something years of existence of the company. I was the fastest from junior role into the first leadership role. So that was something special. And of course I was like, yeah, it's great, right? Like I was pushing a lot, and even like the first area manager there even told me, you need to calm down a bit, like career and leadership, it's not a quick run, it's a marathon. Calm down, chill a bit. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Let's go on, let's move, like
I get that.
I need to, like I need to move forward. Yeah, of course. Now I'm calming down. I even had a time I turned it around too much, right? Like when I started my own company, I was really like, okay, let's, we need to do leadership differently here. So we all decide everything together. We do everything together, right? That was like the other end of the spectrum. So I have seen both, and both have their toxic traits, right? Like, and are not healthy. So moving into the middle, I think that's something of important. And how I keep myself centered, let's say, is journaling. Sometimes I want to do that more, but not there so much. But yeah, on the one hand, I take coachings for myself. So I talk to a therapist and to a coach. And what is super great for me is that people pay me to solve my problems, because by coaching other leaders, they will always reflect back to me what's happening. And so oftentimes I work with them on their problems, which I can so highly relate to. And I focus myself back too. I did a training for 3 years, very intense. It was called Consciousness and Breathwork Trainer. So it was a mix of breathwork, yoga, meditation. It took 3 years. And my trainer there, she told me, hey, you will always get the clients that you need and deserve. And I didn't understand when she told me first, but it's true. People come to me.
They will always mirror you. Yeah.
People come to me with things that I need to work on for myself. And I have, thank God, I will get paid to work on my things, and I can really help them too. So that's absolutely great. And that helps me being centered. But still, of course, I'm not super perfect at all. I sometimes, I think I'm quite good in the coaching game. And then I end the session, I think I should have written down what I told him or her, right? Like I should do that too. Fuck.
Yeah, I get that. Oh my God, especially during conversations and you're coaching someone through something, or, you're leading your team or whatever. And at that moment, you do not have your notebook. You will say something smart, but you will not be able to write it down. And then later on in a conversation with one of your colleagues, you'll go, do you remember what I said? And they're like, no, it was hella smart, but I don't remember. It's always like that. So little lesson from this podcast, bring your notebook. Don't forget your notebook. Don't be too arrogant. Know your knowledge and know that people are basically reflecting what you're going through. I think that's definitely, as a leader, that's definitely a couple of the things that you can keep in mind, because what you said about the clients you're attracting, it's definitely what you are going through as well. I have that the whole time as well. And sometimes it's highly confusing and very confronting. And just
Absolutely.
like I also have a coach and a therapist because, and that, I don't know how you think about it, but every good leader needs a couple of good right hands that can mirror to them. And that's what the coach and the therapist do indeed.
100% and absolutely. And I think sometimes, leaders, I mean, the real good ones, they do, but others don't do because their ego then becomes too big again. And they think, like, I can do everything, I'm the guy or the girl. I decide, I do everything. And you are a really good leader if you do not need to decide everything anymore. If you make yourself, you need to get out of the way in the end. When I started my career, I witnessed a conversation where, being a recruiter, and we were looking for a leader, for a team lead. And the hiring manager then asked a super interesting question in the job interview. And he said, have you ever hired someone that then overtook you in your career? And tell me the story about it. Because he wanted to understand how the leadership style is. If you're just hiring a mini-me and you want to keep everybody down and slow, or are you hiring really smart people that will maybe, even go further than you because you help them to grow, and then you did an amazing job. Right?
They will actually make your job easier for you. You will get less burnt out. You will get less in trouble.
Absolutely.
And they will think with you. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like being.
Yeah. That's definitely some beauty. And I still see that going wrong a lot within companies and politics and wherever, basically. Like, people are just too scared to, I wouldn't even say give power away, but delegating. People are too scared to delegate.
Yeah, people are scared to delegate. And people are, I mean, it's a bit different, I think, within politics or within companies. But I have the feeling many politicians, they are too scared to take decisions, right? Like, especially if I look at the European politics these days, they are just, going after votes and not deciding anything anymore, just trying to make everybody like them and not deciding anything. So it's a bit like, I'm there and nothing is happening, even though hey, you would need to show up, right? Like, you would need to face decisions, even though people might not like you for that, because if you take no decision, people won't like you either. Like, I mean, that's something which is so important, and was a super important lesson for me in leadership too, right? Like, there is people in leadership like me. I don't know about you. It will be interesting to hear that, but like, I like harmony, and I like to be liked, of course. So starting leadership was like, okay, let's make everybody feel good and feel nice. And I was more like a feel good manager. And sometimes I still am, caring too much about making every single individual be happy, while that can turn in the other way, that the group itself is not happy anymore. So sometimes you need to take clear decisions, and leadership is about taking decisions that you might not be liked for as well, but that will be for a greater cause, that will be good for your company, that will be good for whatever political decision you have to take, but that will be super important to take the hard decisions, to let that person go, to, I don't know, whatever. There is hard decisions to take, and you have to do it. And if, now coming back to what we said before, you know yourself, you know your values, then it's not so hard anymore. If you can address the reason why, most people will understand and will be, okay, I understand. I might disagree, but I understand. Let's do that. And then you won't get into big problems or big fights. You're just, if you're clear, then the way is clear. And sometimes, it's not clear because it's too much of, maybe this or maybe that, or
Exactly. You're too unsure and you're not actually taking up the leadership role when, you get through the hard parts. And also through leadership, people just want to be seen. So if you take a decision that's rough and tough around the edges, I mean, I've been there countless of times. I would just go up to my team and say, guys, we got to sit down. I have to make a decision. Nobody's going to like it. I'm also not liking it. I'm going to create a huge rupture in our harmony, but please hear me out for the next 10 minutes. And I always kept it short. I always kept it under 20 minutes because otherwise you'll lose people anyway. So whenever you're leading, you're in your leadership role and you have to take difficult decisions, make sure that they're short, but they're grounded, because a lot of people, first of all, they bullshit a lot. They're like, indeed, like trying to keep the harmony within the company and bullshitting because of that. But sit them down, tell them, guys, this is a very, very tough decision for me. And I need you guys to hear me out. This is the decision I made. This is the result from that decision. And if you're not okay with this decision, please write down for me what you think could be done better. And I would always ask them for their feedback like that, because people, in essence, they don't need harmony the whole time. People just want to be heard. They want to make sure that their
Absolutely.
voice is heard. And that, in the end, is good leadership. If you make sure that the people, that you've heard them and that you make sure that their voice counts, because a lot of other leaders, for example, they just waltz through with their difficult decisions and stuff, and they don't inform, and they just make sure that everyone is kept in the dark, and because of that, insecure, and then rumors will come around the workforce and all that stuff. So make sure that they're heard. I think that's, for me, that's my strategy, making sure I hear people, I take up enough meetings, but not in a way where we will lose track of time and where they're like 2 hours long. Definitely not, because no one benefits from that either, because then you're going to the other extreme. Indeed, you're trying to harmonize too much, and that will only hurt you in the end, and then you'll get a burnout. But people, in essence, they just want to they want to be heard, and they want to make sure that you really see them as a leader.
Absolutely. You see them, and sometimes you address the elephant in the room that everybody knows about, but you're trying to tiptoe around, walking on eggshells. I mean, seeing Davos has not been so long ago, right? Like, where world leaders came together to discuss the world, and most of the people were just, tiptoeing around, not saying nothing. But have you seen the speech of the Canadian Prime Minister by any chance?
No, tell me about it.
It was really, really great, because he stood up there, and to my understanding, that was one of these political speeches that I really liked. And usually I don't like it, because I think, hey, you're not saying anything. But he was to the point, very clear, addressing what he feels. And you might disagree with what he says. That's absolutely fair, right? That's politics. But he absolutely addressed his point of view of the current state of the world and how to deal with Donald Trump and what he makes out of America in this stage. And being Canadian, being close there, of course, is something that is of highly importance to him. But he addressed it in a way that people can relate, that was not aggressive, that was just super clear, because he knew where he stands and where he wants to go and what is his point of view. Not tiptoeing around, not saying, I'm so sorry, maybe. That was great. I can highly recommend, if you have not seen that, Mark Carney, I think is his name.
I think I've seen it in the end. Yeah. Like, he was calm, collected, direct, but not rude. And that's
absolutely.
Holy shit, that's a different language that you're speaking. If you're calm, collected, direct, and not rude, that's magic. I think I've seen it. Yeah,
absolutely. It was really, I watched it twice, the full speech. I think it's 45 minutes. And I was like, wow, that was a good speech. I would love leaders to talk like that. And then you can, right, like, you can still disagree. I sometimes see speeches or leaders where I think I would do it differently. I don't agree, but I can highly appreciate what you are doing. for the circumstances you are in or for who you are, you're doing it great, right? Like it's great. But then I can still decide to do it differently.
Yeah, and I think we've had it on the news for like only 5 minutes because they're not going to fill up the news with that. But he was indeed calm, collected, direct, and not rude.
And not rude. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing,
Sorry.
because as soon as you start being rude, then you're basically fucking up within your leadership role.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, sometimes it needs you to be protective, maybe, right? Depending what it is about, and clear too. But you can always be yourself, right? I think that's core part of leadership too, that you stay yourself, you know your values, and you protect these, and you are not going on the other party, whoever or whatever that challenge is, let you get into a mood or mode that you will then regret, right? Like if somebody attacks you in a rude way, if you stay calm, then you can let them scream at you.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of like people who think they're leaders who in the end, because of ego-driven decisions and because of bossiness, I guess, they do things that they will regret later. I mean, we've both been in that position when we were younger. It's terrifying. And I remember having, talks with my manager when I used to be a manager, and I did things I wasn't proud of. But in the end, it's a process. You have to learn. But I'm curious about another thing. Like, is there a current or past leader, could be anywhere, that you're admiring right now? And why are you admiring them? And we don't have to agree on, all their political or economical decisions, but some people are just so cool that there's like a weird sense of admiration. So I'm curious.
Absolutely. Sanna Marin, the ex-Finnish prime minister. Great leader. She's absolutely great. She was she's not the prime minister obviously anymore. I think now she even left the parliament and now is in some consulting thing or something. But she was super clear. I was super proud that she was a woman, right? Like we need more women in leadership. She was clear. In the end, I think the pressure was super high from that patriarchal political system because she was different than anyone else. She was a good-looking young lady, and people are not used to that, like, right? Like she got accused of looking too good, looking not good enough, doing drugs, partying, all that, and yeah, because she went out once and she put that on Instagram, I think. But she still did that, and she still has a very interesting, like, she has social media accounts. She has
a life.
Yeah, she has a life, and she was authentic, or she is authentic in what she does. And she was super clear, right? Like, hat on. There is this one quote where she addressed Putin she was the Finnish prime minister, and it was about the war in Ukraine, and she said something that I don't really remember, but she was super clear and said, yeah, there's one way to solve it: get out, right? Like, get out.
Yeah, she had that very direct,
what are we talking about? There is the only solution is get out, and super clear. So yeah, I think she just turned 40 or something, so for being a politician,
very young.
like, yeah, very young, being a female in that space, super great. Yeah, role model. And I still follow her on Instagram, and I did while she was the prime minister, and I think she did a real.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, with women in such high leadership positions, there is a lot of, like, sexism in that area, because we either look too hot or not hot enough, or people will describe us as, like, not doing enough and dumb or party animals, or, if you know a lot of stuff and you make sure that you open up your mouth, you're seen as a wise ass. And there's still quite the way to pave for women, which is sad still. And I
Yes.
do hope that as a woman with quite a big reach, I hope that I can maybe change a little bit for, my fellow women. That would be great. I really hope that, because we deserve it, and we deserve to be
Absolutely.
good leaders and politicians. And, we're not only here to breed and to be moms. That's the thing.
Absolutely. I hopefully, like in my self-understanding, I am an ally. Absolutely. I mean, people need to reflect that back to me if I really am that. But I hope I am. And in my work, I really love working with female leaders and doing female empowerment in my way too, because I think it's so important. We need that. And we need female leaders being in their female energy, right? Like not moving too much into the male thing and becoming, the same in the end, because we need, and that's why I liked her so much, because she was clearly a woman in charge, and that was so great to see a role model. And really, really, really deeply the world needs more of that, and we need to break these chains and rules and ceilings that you were talking about too, because of course it's way harder. Like nobody will ever talk about Donald Trump's suit. We might talk, there might be one quote where somebody said he looks orange. Yeah, but that's the only thing you will ever hear about his looks. If he would be a woman, we would be talking about his dress, his everything all the time.
Your
right?
body will be objectified the whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so way harder for a woman to become to even get to the leadership role, and then be there in an authentic way, not twisting and turning herself to become more male-ish, let's say, because most of the other people in the room will be males. So it will, of course, be easier to twist their own behavior and their own character in that way. Being yourself. I had this one female leader I work with her and her fellow leaders, like with her company for a year. And she said, the CEO told me, like, I need to change. I'm too emotional. And then we worked that out, and we said, no. Of course he says that. He's that old man. You need to be yourself.
Wasn't an old white guy?
Yes. But everybody loved her. She was a great leader because she was so emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She felt the other person in the room. She felt her team. Everybody loved her because of that. And they wanted to follow her because they felt seen and understood. And that was, when I think back on that, I really loved it, because we could work that out. No, be yourself. That's your strong suit. That's what differentiates you, is your emotional intelligence. It is being female. Be that. Don't change. Embrace that. Embody that.
And that's the thing. We just need to strike a balance in workforce, in politics, in, our entrepreneurship. We just make sure that we use each other's advantages. It's nothing more than that, basically. And if we can do that within leadership as well, that would be great. That would be amazing to see the world change then, because, I do need a male eye on my business every now and then. And sometimes I get a call from a guy entrepreneur, and they're like, "Hey, Jen, I have a couple of questions. Could you coach me through this and this for like an hour or two?" And then, I help that. And that's how you help each other. But
absolutely,
we don't do that near often enough. We really don't. Like, I find myself still turning to women a lot, even though I know that it would help me if sometimes I would turn towards a guy and say, "Hey, could you like coach me for like an afternoon? Because I might need your experience, actually, because I am the softer side of the spectrum, and you're like a bit more tough and rough around the edges." So yeah, maybe if we could implement that within our leadership, that would already make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, teaming up, mentoring, coaching, and ideally, not with the mini me, right? Ideally, with someone who will reflect something else, or who will,
Yes.
right? Like with a different background whatsoever, who will give you different viewpoints, different, exactly that. Like if we're more on that side, we could tend towards someone who will have a different approach, so we can really learn and then move just a little and understand. Oh yeah, that's a possible way to.
Yeah. Oh, the world would be such a beautiful place. I'm dreaming.
Me too, but we're trying our best here. I think sometimes it's hard as a leader too, right? Like to not allow the world pain to destroy your heart, like, and because
Mm,
the way the world is right now, I could just stay in bed, put the blanket over my head and cry all day long because it's so bad. And I think it's so important to see, but that's something we cannot change in this particular moment. There is change going on, but we cannot influence that in any second. But what we can influence is our microcosm, right? Like not the macro, but the micro, the small thing around us. So we can become better leaders. We can influence the people we are working with. We can help other people in the small space where we really have influence over, right? And that's so good.
yeah.
We can talk in podcasts, we can go out into public and speak about that and hopefully give people ideas that they can relate to. And then we turn the world into a better place as we started our conversation. Maybe not the whole world, but if we reach one person today and make them smile or understand, oh yeah, oh great, okay, I feel seen and heard and understood. Great, because this person might go home, and be nice with their kid, be nice with their partner, be nice with someone else, and we made the world a little nicer every day.
Yeah.
So
It has a little ripple effect, indeed. You can like pay
absolutely,
forward.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah, that's gorgeous. And also, it's kind of like you said, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. You
absolutely,
know, you
yes,
can't influence whatever another person does or says, or, but you can replace the people that you're hanging out with, or the people that you're leading, or the people that you're working with. Or so that's definitely a way that you can also influence your own microcosm again. So yeah, just keep that in check, make sure that you're in good hands yourself, and show some nice good self leadership as well in that way. And for others, like I don't know about you, but ever since I've started the US and the English speaking part of the company, I did cut people out of my life to create better self leadership and also better leadership towards others, because I want to make an impact. I want to, be seen as not positive per se, but real. I want to be seen as real. So I had to cut people out. Do you also sometimes?
absolutely. I think that's super important. The circle around you, the people you're working with is so important. And then sometimes understanding, I might be even discriminating people myself. So I have a quite a good example, because when the war, like when Russia started the invasion of Ukraine, we were thinking like, okay, we had this one Russian client, and we were like, okay, what to do? We cannot work with them anymore, right? Like we are not supporting that at all. So we need to cut all ties to them. We need to stop working with them. But then I said, okay, slow down a little. 1 second. Let's talk to them first, and then we decide. So we had a conversation with the guy we were working with there. We had a Teams meeting, and then we said, I said, okay, what's up? Like, how are you feeling? How's the situation? He said, man, it's terrible. I'm Ukrainian. I'm seated here in Moscow. I'm working for that great company here. I'm super proud because they are supporting us. Imagine, like, I'm in Moscow now. My family is in Kiev. The war broke out. Like, but then I said, okay, wow. Like, what would I have done if I cut that guy out? Because I assumed he would be working for a Russian company supporting the war. But it turned out to be exactly the other way around. But so it was really good.
Communicate, yeah.
Absolutely, to communicate, because our first reaction would have been not right, because it was to cut them out, to be clear, to make a statement, which is of course good. But it was even better to slow down for a second, to get into conversation, and then find out, okay, no, we don't need to stop working with them. Actually, that would be bad. Stop working with them here. Yeah, and
the consequences for his family would have been huge. I mean, he's probably their source of income.
Absolutely. And so, but then in the end, of course, I cut other people out, or business partners, people that are in my circle of influence. I need to cut them out and rethink and reshape with whom I'm working with.
Yeah.
And who's surrounding me. And yeah, if I would be in the Netherlands, I would know a very, very good community that I would join, and I would be working with you there. That would be great, because of course, surrounding yourself with other leaders, with other entrepreneurs, with other people that do things that you want to achieve, that you want to do, where you want to get to. It's amazing.
And it's also super cliche, but it's also good to just keep in mind that you are literally the 5 people that you hang out with the most. You are them. That's what you are going to become. So as a leader, who do you want to become? Who are you going to be in 5 years, and who's going to make you proud? Well, you have to make yourself proud. You have to do yourself good and make sure that you will always, leave the world at least like 1 or 2% better than you found it. And if you're hanging out with the wrong people, if you're not minimizing your footprint, and if you're just being a mean, terrible person, then you're not doing any of that. So that's definitely food for thought for yourself.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree.
So do you have any parting words for today? I do feel like we do have to do a second recording at some point. Oh my God.
Absolutely. We will. It was so great. So thank you very much for opening up and holding up this space, asking me very interesting questions. Thank you very much, people out there listening to that. If you made it here, wow. we had a long conversation. Thank you for staying here till the end. Thank you for being interested in conscious leadership, mindful leadership, in making the world a little better day by day, because it is possible. I think we don't need to lose hope, especially in these days where we have quite interesting role models in leadership, to say it very nicely, where many people fuck up leadership out there and drive the world backwards. It's even more interesting to stay calm and steady and mindful and be present with ourselves and with others, to make the world a bit more a world that we want to live in. Yeah. Without turning rude or becoming them, being more inclusive, and have a little empathy with people. When being a leader, we'll make an impact, and we'll be good. And leadership starts with yourself, while it's not about you.
Very well said. I love that one. Oh my God, that's so quotable. You should use that on your
I need to write that down. Where's my notebook?
Write it down. You can listen back to it, and then you'll be like, yes, these are great. These are great. Yeah, but also talking about socials, give us a little sting, because I want people to be able to find you.
Easiest way to find me are LinkedIn or Instagram. I think you can just put in my name and you'll find them.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, super good. So you will find me there. Maybe you will even find the links in the show notes. I'm on Threads as well. That's where we met. That was great.
Yeah.
So actually, you can find me on all the socials, but most active on Instagram or LinkedIn, I think, is the best ways to get in touch.
Yeah, so definitely, guys, go check out Felix. He's doing some awesome, great work and trying to be a better leader and trying to, leave the world behind in a little bit better state than, the other people are leaving it. So that's already, that's admirable. That's something that we could all aim for. And if everyone does that, holy shit, the ripple effect that it will have in 10 years is going to be great.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, we got this. Well, dear listeners, I would love to say thank you very much for listening. This was a long conversation, but indeed, you've made it all the way so far.
Yes.
Please go forward this and this whole episode and all of Felix socials and everything to other people if they need some, consulting, coaching about leadership, because he's your guy. And, in terms of like great conversations, I'm your girl. So we got this together. And
Absolutely.
we're gonna hang out a little bit, and afterwards, we'll see you later. My brain is broken now. We did too long.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Wow. If you made it this far, first of all, I love you. And second of all, what a conversation. What I personally keep thinking about after recording this episode is this. Leadership is not about being the loudest voice in a room. It's about being the most regulated nervous system in the room. It's not about being admired. It's about being trusted. And trust comes from clarity, from presence, from self-awareness, from knowing your values before things get uncomfortable. Because leadership only really reveals itself when things get bumpy, when the numbers drop, when your team disagrees, when the world feels like it's going backwards, when your ego wants to scream, but your responsibility says, stay calm. That's leadership. And if there's one thing I hope you take from this episode, it's this. You don't have to fix the world. You have to lead your microcosm well. Lead your team well. Lead your household well. Lead your business well. Lead your friendships well. Lead yourself well. And the ripple effect will handle the rest. So here's your tiny assignment for today. Ask yourself, where in my life am I making leadership about me instead of service? And where can I recalibrate? If this episode resonated with you, please forward it to someone, a founder, a manager, a politician, your friend who just got promoted, your partner, anyone who needs a reminder that leadership isn't dominance, it's stewardship. And if you want more conversations like this, the slightly sassy, slightly philosophical, slightly rebellious kind, you can find me everywhere at With Genevieve or at With Genevieve or With Jen, depending on how you want to pronounce it today. And that's on Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, wherever you hang out online. And if you're curious about what I'm building beyond the podcast, go take a look at Vondo. Vondo is my creative baby, a curated space for people who build beautiful things and believe that business can feel intentional, aesthetic, and human. It's not just a marketplace, it's a mindset. And you can find that at vondo.com, VENDAUX.com. So go explore. And of course, thank you to Felix for showing up with the nuance, the depth, and actual adult leadership energy. We need more of that. All right, go lead well, go be present, go be calm lakes instead of raging storms. And remember, leadership starts with yourself without it being about you. I'll see you in the next one.